This video is brought to you by HeyBoxing.com. Want to get paid for promoting boxing-related content on your Instagram? It doesn't matter if you have 50 followers or 50 million. Start earning today at HeyBoxing.com.
Marcos Villegas here in Las Vegas with Eddie Hearn from behind the camera. Eddie, good to see you. I want to get right into it. Just want to get your response, really. Floyd Mayweather yesterday, it kind of makes me scratch my head every time he talks about Canelo, like some of the things he says. Did you hear the things he said yesterday about Canelo, and what do you make of what he said yesterday?
Bits of it, I saw some of the quotes. I don't know. I mean, Floyd's Floyd, isn't he? He's kind of earned the right to say what he wants. So have you, so have I. Sometimes it upsets people. You don't have to agree with a lot of what he says. I don't agree with hardly anything that he says, but he's a great fighter, and it's hard to sort of put him down. But I think the general thing is, there's a lot of contradiction about, being the best and fighting the best, but we'll only fight guys who are with us, and do you know what I mean? And Canelo was in his peak when he boxed. Canelo's in his peak now. When Canelo boxed Floyd Mayweather, he wasn't a novice, but he was a baby. Let's be honest. He's still a great fighter, and it was a brilliant performance from Floyd. No one doubts that. But Canelo Alvarez is in his peak now. So, yeah, look, he's trying to push his show, which is Tank. And obviously, it's hard. Marcus, it's hard when you're doing 30 or 40 interviews, as you know I do as well, to not say something at some point that pisses someone off. Do you know what I mean? So, of course, yeah, and especially when you talk your mind, which a lot of people do, and they should. So, but it's good for boxing, generally, because we need narrative, we need conversation flowing away from the fights as well.
He mentioned that he feels that Canelo is avoiding David Benavidez and taking this fight up to cruiserweight. You being so close with Canelo and possibly this next fight, maybe even landing back with you guys. What do you make of him saying that? Because I have heard a few fans say, like, well, why are you doing this? Why aren't you fighting David Benavidez?
Because David Benavidez, by the way, and I keep saying, David Benavidez, great fighter, right? But he hasn't got anything that Canelo Alvarez wants. If you look at what Canelo has done over the last year and a half, he's consistently fought the champions. Okay, he had a mandatory that he had to take, but he boxed Daniel Jacobs, the world middleweight champion. He boxed Sergey Kovalev, the light heavyweight world champion. Then he said to himself, I want to be undisputed. He boxed Callum Smith, the #1 in the division, Ring Magazine champ. Then he boxed Billy Joe Saunders, WBO world champ. Then he boxed Caleb Plant. He did it in a year. It baffles me, and I know I'm a Canelo Alvarez fanboy, because I think he's great, right? And I know him personally, and to achieve what he's achieved, to have the money that he has, and to have the ambition and drive that this guy has, makes him an incredibly special athlete, right? So I feel passionately about what he is as a person, as a fighter. Having known him and worked with him, he would never duck any fighter, ever. But it has to be a fight that motivates him, or there's a reason behind it. So with Makabu, you can't say, oh, he's looking for an easy fight against Makabu. The guy's 200 pounds. He's going to weigh 225 pounds in the ring. He's going to outweigh Canelo Alvarez by 35, 40 pounds. He punches like an absolute mule. That's not ducking Benavidez or Charlo. Like, what has Charlo or Benavidez done or got for him other than a payday? That's it. So, and that's fine for Canelo to accept a payday if he wants. Payday, but he's about something different than that. He likes challenges. So right now, Canelo Alvarez is probably thinking to himself, what excites me? What makes me get back in the ring? Doing something crazy, like fighting at cruiserweight. Or, what I like, becoming undisputed at 175. Dmitry Bivol, Joe Smith, Beterbiev. What a run that would be. Do you know what I mean? Or Gennady Golovkin 3, the trilogy fight for the undisputed. Do you know what I mean? But the Benavidez fight's a great fight, and the Charlo fight's a great fight. I'm not here to speak for Canelo Alvarez and Eddie Reynoso. They're the bosses. It's whatever they want to do. But I don't see what those options actually do for him. And you've got to get motivated, haven't you? Especially when you're in his lifestyle and You know, and to be self-motivated like he is with that lifestyle is a special athlete. But I think if you said to Canelo Alvarez and Eddie Reynoso, fight David Benavidez, I think the answer would be, yeah, we would, but why? Why? And
I think fans would say the reason why is, yeah, you got all the belts, but David never lost a title. David is the #1 guy at super middleweight. You haven't beaten the #1 at super middleweight. I think a lot of fans would say that.
But the truth is, it depends what rankings you're looking at. When he beat Callum Smith, who was the #1 super middleweight, ranked Ring Magazine champion, you know, WBC, WBA, won the World Boxing Super Series, he was regarded as the best super middleweight in the world. He beat him easily, and all of a sudden, no, he's not very good, that Callum Smith. Do you know what I mean? But who has Charlo beaten at super middleweight? Sorry, not Charlo, Benavidez. And by the way, I think Benavidez is a really good fighter. Who has he beaten? Who has he fought? Nobody. And sometimes you get to a situation where maybe Eddie says that same thing. Well, what's he done to, you know? But honestly, I can just tell you that knowing those guys, they'd never duck one person. But it's just what, they don't do things tactically. It's just about feel. Do you know what I mean? So when I started working with them, they said, we want to be undisputed. It's never been done at 168. There's never been a Latino undisputed champion, right? Let's do that. They've done it. Give him a chance. Do you know what I mean? I mean, he may fight Benavidez next or Charlo, that with the PBC. Who knows? That will be some of the offers that are made to him. But he likes to have a plan, and one of those plans is to box globally as well. That's really important to him. But I guess he's going to do what he's going to do. And the other thing that makes me laugh is that people kind of feel that he has an obligation to fight, you know, mate, he can do whatever he wants. He has earned the right and the opportunity. Now, the great news for fight fans is he don't work like that. So he will do what he wants, but he'll search for greatness. So I'm a little bit conflicted because I'm a massive Canelo Alvarez and Eddie Reynoso fanboy, and I've seen it from the inside what these guys are all about. Do you know what I mean? And I couldn't put him in a fight where I didn't believe he was going to win because he's that good.
The other thing that he brought up yesterday was the steroid allegations. To give perspective to fans that might not know Canelo with the clenbuterol result, but he did do the hair follicle test, and the hair follicle test would have shown if that was put in his system purposely. But it keeps surrounding him. You know, what do you make of Floyd and fans in general always bringing that up with Canelo?
Well, I think going back to the hair follicle stuff, which effectively proved his innocence, I was one of those people back when he tested.
Yeah, you gave him ish.
Yeah. And what I said was that people will always have that, you know, thing to say, because if you're a hater, you're always going to use whatever you can find. He cleared his name ultimately, and a lot of people had to eat their words, me included at the time. Do you know what I mean? But if you're going to hate on someone, there's an opportunity to do it, you know. And again, when you're around someone, you get to know people. And, you know, I know Canelo Alvarez, and I know what the sport means to him. And, you know, those allegations, they just don't sit well with me because I know the guy. And, you know, in the past, I've been guilty of saying something, probably without much knowledge, and when I had an opponent fighting him, so I was trying to wind him up a little bit. But, you know, with that stuff, you know, he's done what he had to do to make sure that he can put that to bed. So, but, you know, Floyd always wants to stay relevant, and he's a great. So, but anything that he says a little bit controversial just boom blows up, and obviously I didn't like what he said, but he's his own guy, and you know he's going to do what he's going to do.
Fans pointed out though that it's kind of a contradiction though, because he's criticizing Canelo for the opponents, and then look at Tank and the people that he's fighting.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tank's brilliant fighter, brilliant. But his resume is really poor. And I think everyone, you know, obviously I always go back with Leonard, and I can't give these guys enough props. Like, they've done a great job for him. He is a star, right? But if you want to just box in-house guys, you can't be a great. What's next for him? Tell me a fight for Tank in-house after Isaac Cruz. Like,
They can go back to Rolly.
yeah, but that's not going to make him a great, is it? No disrespect to Rolly, who again is a good fighter. But what about Kambosos? What about Lomachenko? What about Devin Haney? You know, that's what makes you a great. And I just feel that even if the plan was to only fight guys on your platform, you don't really want to say it, do you? Do you know what I mean? Because fans are just going to think, well, what's the plan for Gervonta Davis? On Sunday, he fights Isaac Cruz, who, by the way, will have a go. I mean, he's tough. But how many buys does that do on pay-per-view? You're distorting his potential by limiting his audience in fights like that. If that fight was on Sunday, on Fox, Sunday evening, could do a huge audience. Yet, I don't know if it does 100,000 buys. Honestly, I don't know if it does 50. Like, you're getting to a stage in this market now where, as an outsider, although I spend half my time in this country, I can't believe how many pay-per-views you have. That fight's $74.99 for that fight, for just that one fight. And 2 weeks ago, or whatever it was, 3 weeks ago, you had Canelo out. Oh, sorry, 2 weeks ago, you had Porter, which bombed, yeah? And then but once you do a Canelo fight and you absorb whatever it did, 650, 750, whatever, it's really difficult to bounce back with another one. And Porter against Crawford felt the effect of that, which was a really good fight, which did whatever, 130, whatever it was. Disastrous. Now you do this one. This could do 50 or 60,000. You imagine you've got a fighter as big as star as Tank doing 60, 78, whatever it does, audience. Do you know what I mean? So Jake the week after. Then you have Charles Martin against Luis Ortiz 2 weeks after that. I mean, what's that all about? Yeah, but listen, and I understand because I've done too many pay-per-views in the past.
I think all that is
run out of dates, right, on your platform. You've got too many fighters, and the platform says to you, well, if you want to do a pay-per-view, we'll do that.
in the budget. You know, all these things have budgets, and they have to go to pay-per-view.
It's like, and I'm not a believer that pay-per-view is dead at all. Canelo's proved it's not. Do you know what I mean?
Wait. You were saying that, though. The campaign and all that would...
No, not me. I've never said pay-per-view is dead. But I do believe that too much pay-per-view, yes, and too much poor quality pay-per-view.
And too much at a high price is
really dead. Yeah. Like, the problem is Crawford against Porter, which was a really good fight, that on normal ESPN is so big for the sport. Do you know what I mean? And same with Tank this weekend. But the fighters are getting so much money that the broadcasters are saying, well, we won't pay that license fee. So you have to come up with another model to do it. It's great for DAZN because I'm sitting there at $19.99 a month, having had 2 Canelo Alvarez fights this year, having just had Teofimo against Kambosos, Devin against Jojo this week, and so saying, I believe we're providing great value for money. It doesn't mean, by the way, that DAZN will never do a pay-per-view. It's not part of the modelling, but it is important for them to have the capability and the functionality to do it, because sometimes you need to share a broadcast that only sits on pay-per-view. Other times a fighter will only box on pay-per-view. And I feel like they're really well positioned at the moment. And all of these pay-per-views I actually think works well for DAZN, because fight fans are going, well, I think I'm getting great value for money on that platform. And the price point's got to come down for me. I
had a conversation with Steven about this, about the price points, and he said that they are open to it, but they don't want to be the ones that lower the price and then get the same amount of buys and then end up earning less. And he said that's really the thing, is like they don't want to be the first ones, or I don't think anybody in that position wants to be the first one to lower it and still get the same amount that they would get if it had a higher price.
The problem as well is if you lower the price, it's an admission of a poorer quality, right? Yeah. So, for instance, Charles Martin against Luis Ortiz is $39.99 or $49.99. Well, what are you saying? It's not very good. So, but you are, aren't you? So like once you lower the price of something, it's a kind of admission of value, and that's dangerous for a pay-per-view. But it's also dangerous to keep doing pay-per-views at $70, $80. Like,
yeah, no, I wish we had pay-per-views priced how you guys have them over there, because that's a steal for me,
Yeah, you do. Even when I was at Sky, we were doing 5 or 6 a year, and now they've done none because they haven't had a pay-per-view fight. But they will do. Calm Brook in February or March, that's one. But since we left, they haven't had a pay-per-view on Sky. They've tried to, but it's hard to always get those kind of fights. But even when I was doing 5 or 6 at £20, God, we were getting hammered. by the fans. You know, just like, I know. Yeah, I know.
You got them for $80. Floyd and Manny was $100. What are they complaining about? Switching topics, I wanted to touch on Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, Dillian Whyte, that whole situation. First off, with Dillian Whyte, the arbitration, is that going to get settled so he can go ahead and get his mandatory?
I believe so. Yeah, I think it's very close to getting settled now. I think it's really about sort of getting something that's concrete, getting the right split that you deserve as the interim champion, someone that's waited for a very long time. And I just feel that they feel like going through that process is a lot more concrete than just hoping that the WBC orders it. So I think that's imminent. And when that happens, I believe he'll be called to fight Tyson Fury.
I was there in Mexico when representatives from Top Rank came in, and they said, hey, we feel that the fair split should be 80-20, 80 for Tyson, 20 for Dillian Whyte. You being is Dillian Whyte's promoter. What do you think that's fair? What do you make of that?
Actually, as the interim world champion, I believe the minimum you can get is 30% anyway, and the maximum you can get is 45%. And I honestly believe for how long Dillian Whyte has waited and the value that he brings in that fight, it should be at the higher end. So that's another reason that they're going through this process to get a fair crack of the split of this fight. And I think that's very important.
Yeah, because a lot of people were wondering, well, if it's delaying the mandatory shot, why not just drop the case so they can go ahead and make it?
To make sure you get it on the right terms and that it's concrete and solid with no exceptions or nothing at all, basically. Because that process has been going on for so long that I guess they've lost faith that it's going to happen. So they've had to go down this route to make sure they won't be denied.
Given that, when do you think that's all going to get cleared up, and when do you think you can have something concrete?
But at the same time, people have reached out to us about AJ. Would you consider doing this and doing that and stepping aside and doing this? It's not on the agenda. It's not what he's about. But if something was presented to me that I felt I should take to him, I would. Tyson Fury wants to get his next opponent locked in. We've got a rematch clause with Usyk, which we need to schedule. So, we're all sitting and waiting, getting ready to move. There's no tearing rush at the moment. But, everyone wants to decide what they're doing in 2022.
It seems like it's a similar position that Deontay Wilder was in, but he didn't want the step-aside money. He was like, no, heck no.
Also, it wasn't there. I mean, there was no one willing to give him the step-aside money. Both fighters weren't willing to pay Deontay Wilder, do you know what I mean? And I don't even think that conversation was ever really had. Same with AJ, he's made it quite clear to me, don't approach me with anything unless you really feel like it's a conversation worth having, because I just want this fight, do you know what I mean? And nothing got presented to Deontay Wilder that made Al Heyman have that conversation with Deontay Wilder. He may have just said no, do you know what I mean? But it doesn't matter because it never got presented, and this may never get presented. But it's got to be the right. I could tell if they come to me and said, at the end of the day, if there was a concrete plan for us,
I think it has to be stupid money, right? It has to be.
Of course, the money's important, but it's more about the plan, Marcos. We've waited a long time to try and get that undisputed fight. Yeah. He got beat by Usyk, and that's, if all of a sudden you could have a fight, with a new training team and then go into an undisputed fight or something, but then you've got the Dillian Whyte issues, we'd want absolute concrete guarantees, and I think that's very difficult in boxing. So unless it's absolutely right for Anthony Joshua's career, we wouldn't even consider it, and it's going to take a lot, not just financially, but to make this attractive. So in our heads at the moment, it's Usyk in the spring.
I think the Fury-Joshua fight would be just as attractive as it was before that loss with Usyk and this is just me thinking, and like I said, anything can happen with the heavyweights. Say you guys do step aside, the undisputed happens, and then you get a guarantee. If the step aside does happen, we go into an undisputed. That, I think, automatically brings that luster back to that fight.
AJ he's sitting there has to beat Alexander Usyk to get back in the mix. All of a sudden, fights for the undisputed, like out of nowhere, and but again, we've waited so long for that. We're not going to take someone's word that that's what's going to happen. It's got to be immovable. So we'll see.
Last topic, Golovkin. It was announced yesterday that you got to push it back. What's the plan for that now? Are you guys going to move the fight back to the United States?
Obviously, it's on DAZN, but we haven't been overly involved in the promotion of that fight. It's a real kick in the proverbials for Gennady because he's waited a year really for that fight, and now he can't have it. So, do you reschedule that fight in the hope that the border's open? Who knows what's going to happen? Do you fight Demetrius Andrade in a unification? Do you try and make the Canelo Alvarez trilogy straight in May? I mean, you know, all these things are possible, but it was a big blow to him because he's kind of hedged his bets that was the next fight, and obviously it's completely out of his control. But he'll be looking around now going, do I wait? You know, because you could wait till February or March and then have the same problem. So it's a tough one for him, but he's going to want to fight.
I think a lot of fans are asking with Andrade, like, why can't you just make that fight happen? You guys, you have both guys in there. Like, why can't you just make it happen?
Gennady Golovkin's his own boss. If he doesn't want to fight, you know, he chose to fight Murata. I understand that. He wanted to go to Japan. You know, it was a unification fight. But now that if that's not available, I would love him to fight Andrade. And I think DAZN would as well. But it's down to Gennady. He's the bigger name. He's earned the right to fight, to make the choices he wants to. And, you know, maybe and hopefully he turns around now and goes, well, if I can't get that unification, I'll fight Demetrius. We'll see.
Or Charlo.
But obviously different networks. But I still think it can get made.
All right. I do want to test on the Charlo. Can you answer a Charlo question? Okay. Andrade and Charlo going back and forth. He's really pushing for it online via Twitter. Is there movement there, or is it?
I mean, we wrote to the WBC and said, under your rules, 4.3, I think, you can order another champion to become mandatory for one of your champions. Quite a strange rule, but it's been done before. They're the only governing body that have that rule. And I said, for the good of boxing, please could you order Demetrius Andrade against Jermell Charlo? I wrote to the WBO and I said, just to let you know, we've made this request. If it gets ordered, we would appreciate you sanctioned it. And they came back and put a mandatory on us. So it was quite frustrating. Yanni Beck, you know, good fighter. Not the fight that, not exactly the fight that people are crying out for. So, good result, though. Yeah, good fight. But, you know, we're at a stage now where it's like, but, you know, and then we think, do we move up to 68 and become mandatory there under the WBO rules? Possibly, but I wouldn't, you know, part of Demetrius' value is that he's world middleweight champion. And I would only recommend that he moves up and vacates the belt if there is a solid option for him. And that's what we're working on at the moment.
Do you think Canelo would be a solid option? I don't think so, right?
And they're not going to call him mandatory, by the way. He's super champion, so he'd probably have another year or whatever it is. And I don't see Canelo hanging around at super middleweight. You know, maybe a Golovkin fight or something, but he's done. I mean, so, but again, it go back, you know, I had a debate with Demetrius' mum, you know, and I just, he'll fight anyone, but you've got to have something that he wants or something, you know, it could be money, but that's not his real big motivator, or it could be a belt, or it could be a part of the jigsaw to do this, do you know what I mean? Or do that and you make history by doing that, you know what I mean? So it's hard because, you know, Demetrius and will say, oh, Canelo's ducking me. I'm saying, I don't think he is. It's just that, you know, the time to get that fight was back in the day when he was at middleweight and Demetrius was also middleweight. That was when it could have happened because he was a champion. But he couldn't make middleweight anymore, moved to 68, and then all of a sudden, why would he fight the middleweight world champion? He's moved to 68 and he wants to become undisputed. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes hard having that debate with Demetrius, and because I saw what happened, and I believe in what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's when you get to a certain point, like where he's at, that you've already achieved the things that you achieve. Like a fight like that doesn't get you up. Like it has to be something that really gets you going.
If it was part of what he was trying to do. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But like if Demetrius was,
well, that's like you've already reached a certain level of success, so you got to go even bigger. Like
an addiction. Yeah. And that's the same with Canelo. Like you want more and more. What else can I do to prove that I'm the best or prove that I'm special? Yeah. Well, imagine winning a cruiserweight world championship. That's crazy. You know. So That's really what he's thinking, rather than, and that's when I go back to Benavidez and Charlo, I just don't see. I might, maybe Eddie and Sal go, yeah, that appeals to me, but I don't see that lighting them up,
Last thing, the Makabu fight. Yeah, I know, but just to get info, the Makabu fight, is that going to be on the zone? Have you guys put an offer for it?
Yes, Makabu's not with us. He's not with PBC, so whoever pays the most money for that has got a very good chance of getting it. I like the fight. I've done a fight with Makabu, Tony Bellew. Yes, we would definitely. We'd want any Canelo Alvarez fight, but that's a historic fight.
Yeah.
I do like the Golovkin fight. I think the first two are brilliant. And it's the undisputed championship still because of the belt. So, and I like the 175 move. I like anything he wants, really. So we'll see.
Still in agreement with each other, like the promotional?
No, just fight by fight, and but got a good relationship. Again, sounds cheesy. I'd see him as a mate. We talk a lot. I respect him massively, but it's business. He's not going to take a fight because he likes me. All things equal, I think he would want to be with us. But if there's a better opportunity, it's, sorry, Eddie, I'm going to take this one. And I say, absolutely, boss. You know what I mean? Jefe. Yeah.
Won't be surprised if he calls you Lalo, because that's your name in Spanish. Yeah. Edward, Eddie, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Thank you so much for watching this video. And make sure to subscribe for more videos of your favorite fighters over here on Fight Up TV. And give us a follow online as well at Fight Up TV on Twitter and on Instagram. We appreciate it, guys.